Video games are supposed to be a place where anything is possible. A place where you can do what you want, when you want. Yet, there is one thing that a lot of games don't allow you to do, and the reasons may surprise you. It may even be something you didn't know you wanted in your games until this video. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the ability to fly. Now, just to be clear on what this video is actually about, I am talking about instant takeoff into the sky. No vehicles, no mounts, no jumping off cliffs, no buildings to glide off, no special areas where you can access flight zones, no hovering cars, no hover boots or jetpacks. Even though the GTA San Andreas jetpack is still the best jetpack in gaming over 20 years later. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about flying like Superman. So the question now is, why are there so few games that give you this ability? Well, in the past there were hardware limitations. The old consoles couldn't load in the world fast enough without causing severe drops in performance. So game devs had to start using smart techniques when designing open worlds. Basically, not to get too technical, games only load in what you can see and interact with. Everything you can't see remains as a code until you decide to move on to a different area. Then the code is triggered to load in the next area you are going to. In the old games, this took the form of loading screens, as it took up a lot of computing power to render graphics back in the day. Now technology has advanced to the point where graphics can be loaded relatively quickly. Because even in open worlds back then, where you can see something in the distance, you couldn't see the details of that area. So how does this relate back to flying like Superman? Well, if you design a character like Superman, you have to consider that players would want to fly really fast, just like Superman does. The problem that now presents itself is loading the details fast enough, and up until recently the hardware just wasn't good enough. The data took too long to load into the game world. Good news is, it's now possible to render huge open worlds that you can travel through extremely fast and barely see a loss in detail. This was proven in the 2023 release of Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. As you can see, this is the closest we've come to a Superman game in decades. Another reason flying is so limited is the design of the world you're going to be flying in. See, you can't just put flying in any type of world. You have to create a world where players won't clash with the walls or corridors or get stuck in buildings. Most games that offer flying are set in a countryside where there's a ton of empty fields or desert areas, or there's like a body of water like a dam or ocean. One is to increase the distance between two areas so that if the player enjoys flying, they can do it for as long as possible. Two is because if the player is going fast, then grass or water is an asset that can load faster into the world than something detailed like a bunch of villages or a city area with buildings. And maybe the devs can put some random events between traveling so that it feels more interactive to travel instead of just flying and watching the world go by like some mindless activity. 3 is vertically. If the player can fly, they can see more of the map, so it has to look convincing from all angles. And designing vertical areas is more complex than traditional horizontal design. So designing the world has more of an impact on enjoyment than you think. Okay, so now you got your technology advanced enough. You got your game world designed to entertain players while they're flying around doing stuff. Now the next problem you face is actually making the controls feel good to play. Like, how do you make flying interesting? You would think it's a simple question. One game I think did a perfect job is Hogwarts Legacy. In this game you can call up your flying broom at almost any time and take off. This simple method of flying is instantly intuitive, with no complex controls to confuse the player. But this can also be a problem for players who seek challenge in their games. See, Hogwarts Legacy makes it impossible for you to crash or fall from your broom. with invisible walls stopping you well before you can even get close to plummeting to your death by crashing into walls or falling into a river or whatever. But it's perfect because that's the compromise the devs made to provide flying in the game, and it feels amazing to take to the skies anytime you want to. Other problems that prevent games from doing this might also relate to collision and physics. Again, not to get too technical, but games have to calculate your character model, where it is in the space of the game world, how it interacts with objects. Even just walking on the ground and making that look convincing takes a lot of behind the scenes work to do. So obviously split-second decisions can put these calculations under extreme pressure to act accurately, and game engines like the Unreal Engine can help new developers by doing some of the work for them. And I am not an expert in game development, but it doesn't take a genius to realize there might be some challenges you can't even plan until you complete a large amount of the game. To see how different systems interact with each other, and then you make corrections from there. Anyways, I'm getting carried away. Point is, just to make flying feel natural is its own battle. Some of the last few challenges include the camera being stable while you are flying, just to make sure you don't get confused or disorientated by it moving all over the place. Another thing is story reasons. Does your character have a reason to fly? Or even other abilities besides flying that can cause more consideration for gameplay so that it doesn't feel out of place with the story. These are just a few of the things that need to be considered in order to put flight in a video game. I'm sure I'm missing some things, but the point is, these are some of the reasons that flight is so rare in gaming. However, a few games have tried to tackle these challenges head on, and they actually have some solid ideas on how to implement these flying mechanics into a game. For the sake of time, I'm only going to discuss 3 games that I think are worth your time to play if you, like me, are fascinated with flying. First game I want to talk about is Gravity Rush. This game, if you've never heard of it, has a unique solution to flying. Basically, you control gravity, and if you aim it at the sky, you fall upwards. And if you fall upwards, you can aim it elsewhere and fall in that direction instead. Unfortunately, the studio shut down in 2020, and it's still beloved by many, with positive reviews across the board. Yet, the idea still remains for any game studio to implement in their games. This is truly one of the most interesting gameplay mechanics I've ever seen, and I would love to see it in a AAA open world game someday. Anyway, give this one a try if it sounds interesting to you. It's available on the PS4 and the PS5. Next, I want to talk about a game that is so underrated in my opinion. The 2007 Superman Returns game, released on the PS2 and Xbox 360. This game has the perfect flight controls that I want to see in more games. Sure, it's not perfect, but with some polishing I think it could be an elite way to traverse open world maps. This can be something really special if implemented correctly. This one is a personal favorite of mine. I thought this game was amazing back in the day, but I didn't do much except flying around. And now that I've revisited the game, I can clearly see why this game didn't succeed. But I still like it a lot because the flying is just crispy. And yeah, the game has a lot of problems, but for a first attempt, the ambition of this game is remarkable. And there's a lot of people that would die for a new Superman game. Hopefully James Gunn can get funding to a passionate team to do it justice. Again, unfortunately the game did not perform well, and the team who made it were forced to make Madden and various sports games for EA. And they never got to build on a strong foundation. And now there's no legal way to own this game. You can try to emulate it on PC, or you can get a second-hand physical copy on PS2 or Xbox 360 if you're lucky. And finally, I want to talk about Megaton Rainfall. Such a dope name. Yeah. This game is nuts. But it's also not very good. And I think sometimes ambition needs to be checked, because this game is all over the place. good in some ways, bad in others. In this game you basically play in a first person perspective, and you play as a character I can only describe as Goku / Superman / wizard on steroids. You can fly around a whole planet, hell, you can even fly to outer space, to different planets, and it feels extremely satisfying to do so. Now you can do other things like shoot energy balls out of your hands, hell, you can even stop time. But I want to focus on the flying mechanics in this game because it truly has potential. Just the sense of speed, slowing down, ascending, descending, everything feels on point. And this game was developed by one person over 5 years. Imagine what a team can do. But once again, this game came out in 2018 and no other game has improved on this first attempt. Now there are other games that offer flight mechanics like the Lego games, believe it or not. And there are mods on PC if you really need to have that itch scratched. And the future does have a couple of Superman-like games coming up, like Undefeated Genesis, that looks really promising and maybe can help publishers realize the potential of flight in video games. One can only hope. But I do think more games need to use flying as a mechanic. Not just because I would love to have it in more games, but I think we need to figure this mechanic out and add some polish to different ideas. And there seems to be a reoccurring theme where solid ideas are abandoned for no reason. I think we can refine it over a couple of games in a series. Figure out how to make it more engaging to players who want more of a challenge, without punishing casual players who just want to turn their brain off and fly around, admiring the environment or interacting with the world in general. I think games will be better if we can figure out this flight in a satisfying way. Just like a first or third person shooters became a standard in regards to how it feels. I think flight can become standard, and over time we can add cool systems on top of a solid foundation. What do you think? Do you like to fly around in games? Could you care less? Do you have some ideas of your own as to how this could work? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.